why are more women than ever choosing Natural Cycles? The hormone-free, side-effect-free way to take control of your fertility. Natural Cycles is a birth control app that uses your temperature to find your fertile window. It is more than a basic cycle tracking app. Natural Cycles is the only FDA-cleared and CE-marked birth control app and has helped millions prevent and plan for pregnancy naturally. Save 15% when you sign up today with code RADIO15. Learn more at naturalcycles.com.
Diving into the postseason of the 2018 minor league campaign, the Minor League Baseball podcast returns for the first week of September. My name is Tyler Mon. Sam Dykstra is in New York City, and this is the show before the show, episode number 176. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Tyler. It's good to have you back in Colorado as far as that goes.
Yeah, back
as if it matters that much to
a semi-normal setting for the podcast these days.
Yeah. But you were Skyping us from your new house. Is that not correct?
I am actually not today. We're still doing work on the house, and so I'm actually Skyping you from the patio at my mom's house, which it's lovely here today. It's like 72 degrees. It's fantastic. So I'm doing it. This might be the first ever outdoor show before the show podcast.
There we go.
Something. Yeah, it's kind of cool. It's kind of a cool.
Just imagine,
break.
Yeah, rolling mountains behind you. The
they're in front of me actually.
Okay, well,
we're westward facing in the backyard. So
as people will hear later, all I think about in Colorado is just the mountains. So I imagine they're surrounding you in some way. They're in front of you, they're to the right of you, to the left of you, behind you, all over the place.
Yeah, totally. That's how it goes. I'll be over at the house later. I'm having like furniture delivered. I got to paint this weekend. It's exhausting. I'm not being a good millennial in that I bought a house, but it's fun. It's cool to get a chance to do some work on it. But soon I will have a podcasting area set up, and the show before the show will sound better than ever. I make no guarantees as to whether that's actually the case. But we'll see. And thanks for tuning in wherever you found us, episode 176, our first playoff edition of the season. And wherever you did find us, we appreciate it. You can give us a rating and a review and a subscription, and get in touch with the show as well, podcast@milb.com. A little while later, we are going to be hearing from Benjamin Hill, who is all done with all 159 minor league ballparks. Ben finally wrapped things up, and we didn't get a chance to see each other when he was in Colorado. His last two ballparks that he had not visited were the two minor league ballparks in the state of Colorado, and he saved those for last, Colorado Springs and Grand Junction. Checked off the list. I was traveling back, and Ben was all over the place around here, so we didn't get a chance to hook up, but we'll talk in depth about his visit to Colorado Springs and to Grand Junction and about what it means to have checked off all 159 and more, but 159 active ballparks in the minor leagues. I think he said 172 total ballparks, which means 13 that are no longer used in the minor leagues. Ben has also visited, which is pretty incredible. And as soon as he gets these under his belt, going to be obsolete by the start of the 2019 season, because we're going to have multiple new parks that have not been used in the minor leagues. So Ben will just have to get back on the road and check those ones off as well. So with that, we welcome you into this week's episode. We'll talk with Ben coming up here in a little bit, but we'll get started as we do every week in the show before the show podcast with three strikes to cover the three most pressing issues in minor league baseball. And first up, strike one this week, we're done with the 2018 regular season. We have even playoffs that have wrapped up already in the 2018 season, which is absurd. But the Appalachian League is done. Arizona League is done. The Gulf Coast League is done. We've already crossed off a handful of leagues. But Sam, when you look back on 2018, how are you going to remember the 2018 season?
Yeah, so I think this is something that kind of really wrapped got set into the place here the last couple weeks. I was already going to remember this season as probably the season in which we knew Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was going to be a superstar. That seemed pretty well set in my mind. But then the way, September has kind of started here, and in terms of September roster expansion, how news is broken in terms of that, I think just the taste I have right now, and maybe this will change in a couple months, but it feels like this is going to be the season in which how we view service time and how that's handled, between the majors and minor leagues and organizations handle their top prospects in terms of service time. It feels like this is going to be a tipping point. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. not getting called up to Toronto, in fact, heading to the Arizona Fall League. We'll talk about AFL rosters here in a little while. But the fact that he hit 381 this year between two of the highest levels in the minors at AA New Hampshire, AAA Buffalo, added in 20 homers, led all of minor league baseball in both slugging percentage and OPS. This is a guy who should be in the major leagues. One of the best hitting talents since I've started here in 2012, a generational talent in terms of minor league hitting. Was really cool to see him this year. It was really cool to see him perform as well as he did, being just 19 years old. He's not getting the call to the majors. Okay, so that's one guy. And we've done that before. Ronald Acuna Jr. last year, we went through this. Should he have been in Atlanta to end of September? He wasn't. He got called up the next year. Chris Bryant was kind of that same way, split his year between AA and AAA. Was one of the minors' best hitters. I think he led the minor leagues in home runs in his last year in the minors. The next spring doesn't win the job out of spring, gets called up at the end of April. Okay, those may have been like isolated incidents, but now we're getting Vlad, we're getting Eloy Jimenez at AAA Charlotte, hits .355 with 12 homers and a .996 OPS. He was definitely looking major league ready. He even wrote in the Players Tribune saying, like, Chicago, I want to see you. I'm here. I'm ready to go. Let's do this. And, Rick Hahn, general manager, saying, he's not quite ready yet. We want him to be defensively ready. There's still some questions about that. There really aren't. I'll come out and say that. Like, the best thing for Eloy Jimenez to improve that defense is to play in the major leagues right now, is to see what major league quality defense looks like. The bat's going to play right away. Okay, so those are two names. And then strangely, the Mets do the same thing with Peter Alonso, who's the number 61 overall prospect in the game. He ends up, his last swing of the minor league season is a walk-off home run at AAA Las Vegas. I think that's something we teased last week. Tyler, that was your pick, is to watch the Vegas feed for the last time. Yeah. Get the chance while you can. Alonso ends up tied for the minor league lead in home runs. Hits 36 between Vegas and AA Binghamton. His last swing is that 36th home run, which is a walk-off homer. Everybody gets to go nuts. The highlight was really neat. The guy did everything he could do. Like, let's be honest. He's a really good power hitting first baseman, arguably the top first base prospect. He's already 23, went through a little bit of a lost year last year in 2017, but was a second round pick in 2016. He's not in that same, he is a top 100 prospect, but he's not in that same caliber of Vlad or Eloy in terms of, okay, this is a guy we need to protect long term, because if we're talking about 6-7 years of service time with him in the majors, he's getting to the back end of his 20s, which is a little bit post-prime for first base prospects, let's be honest. So, I know the Mets have a crowded first base situation right now. None of them are as hot hitting right now as Peter Alonso. He seems so primed to get. So now we don't just have one really good prospect who's getting shut out. We don't have just two. We have three. And then Byron Buxton, who's not a prospect anymore, obviously, but the Twins straight out came and said, this is somebody we want here for the long term. It doesn't make sense for us to call him up now from Rochester and to eat up some service time for absolutely nothing. I think this has to be addressed by the Players Association at some point. The collective bargaining agreement isn't up for a little while longer, so they don't exactly have the negotiation power right yet. It's not like it's going to be opened up. But I think we're going to look back on this season as the tipping point in this. It wasn't isolated incidents anymore. It's very clearly teams trying to take advantage of. They're not even loopholes. They're in there to, help teams control players for longer. It doesn't help the players. It doesn't help the game, because it keeps, right now we should be seeing the 35 to 40 best players in an organization up on the major league team, and that's certainly not the case in Toronto. It's certainly not the case in Chicago, and it's not the case in Queens right now, because Guerrero, Jimenez, and Alonso aren't in the majors. So there were a lot of really fun stories this year that will also stay in my mind. Alex Kirilloff coming off Tommy John surgery, leading the minors in extra base hits is really cool. Michael Kopech figuring out his control issues at the end, working his way to a major league, debut was really neat. Vlad's chase for 400 is something that, it's going to be tough for me to forget that. So stuff like that. But when I look back how his history going to remember this season. I think it's going to be the season where they decided, this is where something needs to change, whether it's this offseason, whether it's 2 years from now, 3 years from now. This will be something that we circle in terms of how service time is dealt with, how prospects are handled, and how willing players are to go to bat for their fellow players in this way.
Yeah, I think that's certainly going to be the lasting legacy from this season, and I'm not smart enough to figure out how it's going to play out going forward, but in this era of super prospects, this is an issue that needs to be addressed, and there's certainly a coming labor discussion in Major League Baseball that's going to involve a whole lot more than this between the players' union and the owners, but it's going to be interesting to see what the legacy is of Vlad and of Eloy, and even of, in recent years of Chris Bryant and guys like that, and what it's going to mean for prospects going forward beyond 2018.
Yeah, and one thing we should add is that part of the problem here is minor leaguers, until they sign a deal to join the 40-man roster, aren't part of the players' union.
Right.
So they're not technically protected in that way. So in terms of service time, if the players' union were to go to bat for Vlad Guerrero, they would be going to bat for a non-union member right now.
Yeah. Which is such a strange dynamic.
Right. So once they do sign that, once Vlad becomes a major leaguer, let's say April 25th next year, he all of a sudden is a union member who has been hurt by the service time issue. And that's something I think that they should be proactive about and not wait until they're major leaguers. But again, I'm not predicting that something big is going to happen this offseason. I just think next labor negotiations, or if any big labor news comes out the next couple of years, this is going to be the time that really tip the scales towards that movement.
Strike two this week. We are into the playoffs, as we noted, in all of our leagues, with the exception of the ones that have wrapped up for 2018 already. And there are some interesting prospect-laden rosters. And as far as individual prospects playing in the postseason, Sam, for Strike two, who do you think would benefit most from a good run in the postseason?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to choose two Fresno Grizzlies for this one. Both for differing reasons. Well, kind of the same reason, actually, I guess. One is Kyle Tucker, who I don't think he has to prove his major league case anymore by any means. After he got sent down from Houston to Fresno, over his last 11 games of the season, he went 22 for 44, which is exactly 500, and hit 7 homers in those 11 games. Went on an absolute tear. And that's the Kyle Tucker certainly not to that level, but that's the Kyle Tucker we knew. He has one of the sweetest left-handed swings in the game right now, at least in the minors. And he obviously went through some rough patches during his times with Houston. He had batted 154 over 20 games, not great, obviously. But I really think he's somebody who should be pushing for Houston's postseason roster. So now he's going through his own postseason. The Astros, they're not in a rush to call him up. They would rather him, get his regular at-bats with Fresno. That's fine. I have nothing wrong with that, as long as he's playing every day and staying hot and keeping up this hot bat. If he continues to have a hot postseason, okay, he's going to demand at-bats when he eventually gets called back up to the Astros. So if he can keep this going, and maybe he gets some looks here in September once he gets that call, I really think he has a chance to push for that postseason roster. I would love to see him get that chance, based on how hot he is and based on what his potential is. I mean, he finished the year with 24 homers and 20 stolen bases. Obviously, those 7 homers at the end helped push him into that 2020 club. But he's got one of the best power speed combinations. I would hate for him to be defined by his major league time alone, because that is such a small sample. He's only gotten 52 at bats and it's sporadic playing time. So if he were to have a really strong postseason, that would only help build his case to get another postseason look come October. The other one I have in that same team is Miles Straw. If anybody read my tool shed that came out on Wednesday, that kind of highlighted some numbers that are going to be memorable for us, going forward. I mentioned Vlad's 381 average, but Miles Straw ended up leading all of the minors this year with 70 stolen bases, which is just a crazy number. They were evenly split, 35 at Fresno, 35 at AA Corpus Christi. I felt like he kind of did so quietly. Usually these super fast prospects, your Billy Hamiltons, people like that, are somebody we're talking about a lot. Straw that wasn't quite the case because he is a little bit of a light hitter. He batted .257 in his 66 games at Fresno. Did not hit a home run in the PCL, which is pretty notable. He's kind of a slap hitter, likes to go the opposite way, likes to keep the ball on the ground and take advantage of his speed. That's not going to result in high averages or OBPs necessarily. But he's somebody who, with another strong postseason run for Fresno, could be playing his way onto a roster as, the key pinch running guy. I mean, there aren't that many people in the game right now that are faster than Myles Straw, and the fact that I think he went 70 for 79 on the base paths this year. So this isn't just a guy who's always running, and he's going to be caught sometimes, but he's a little overeager. He's very efficient on the base paths. That's exactly what every playoff-bound team is looking for. We saw, I think just last week, Quentin Berry got signed by the Yankees to a minor league deal. He's currently with Scranton Wilkes-Barre, basically for that very role. I mean, he has done this before with the Red Sox, a couple other clubs, being the pinch runner extraordinaire. And what if you already have that guy in your system? Myles Straw could be that. Now, maybe the Astros would prefer Tony Kemp, who's already on the major league roster, to do that. That's totally fine. But Myles Straw has a chance to prove himself that he is major league ready, that he can do a little bit more with the bat. He actually got the game-winning hit for the Fresno Grizzlies in Game 1 of the PCL semis the other night, helped them get a 1-0 lead with an RBI single in the 10th inning. Only went 1 for 5 in that game, but still, coming up with a hit in a big spot is only going to help him. So he's got a real chance here to prove himself. So I'll be looking at Tucker and Straw. Tucker's definitely going up. Straw yet is not on the 40-man, so he would have to be added in that way to get the call. But speed plays everywhere, and he's got a real shot, I think, here in the next couple weeks.
I'm going to go with a Kyle as well. Kyle Lewis of the Arkansas Travelers, who last night homered and scored the eventual game-winning run for that team in the opener of their Texas League semifinal series. But Kyle Lewis, late start to the season, fared well with Class A Advanced Modesto, 260, 303, 429 in 49 games, but jumping up to Arkansas, 37 games in Double-A, 220, 309, 371. Time is certainly still on Kyle Lewis's side. He's only 23 years old, but was a first-round pick back in 2016. He's still only played 165 career minor league games. And I think if Kyle Lewis had one of those breakout postseasons, sort of like what we saw, I mean, he was already an uber prospect, but really capitalized on it in the playoffs, also in the Mariners organization, when Tyler O'Neill really blew up for Jackson a couple of years ago and led that team to a league championship in the Southern League. Now, Kyle Lewis, I think, being the guy who is sort of the next big prospect position player talent in that system, if he can stay healthy and if he can put it all together, I think being able to put his stamp on a postseason performance like Tyler O'Neill did a few years ago would go a long way for Kyle Lewis. So keep an eye on him. A big Game 1 for him with a team that is now out in front in their Texas League semifinal series. Strike 3 this week. Sam, as you noted, the roster is already announced for the Arizona Fall League, and Vlad Guerrero is among the players, top prospects headed to the Arizona Fall League. Forrest Whitley, the right-handed pitching prospect in the Houston Astros organization, will join him there. 17 total top 100 prospects. What stands out most about the AFL's look for its 6 teams so far through the initial offering in 2018? A lot of those guys won't be on the roster when we get to opening day. It's just kind of how it shakes out with the AFL. But what stands out most to you?
Yeah, so I think it is interesting that Vlad Jr. is going to be there. I mean, I said this on the day. I hope people flock to see Vlad Jr. in the same way that they flocked to see Tebow 2 years ago when he was in the Arizona Fall League. Tebow was kind of an oddity. We didn't know what he was going to be yet as a baseball player, and I get that. And that was the first chance to see him on a baseball diamond, and people flocked to. I mean, you were there, Tyler, right? Like, Tebow games were much better attended than anything.
Very different energy.
Right. And so with Vlad Jr., you're not going to see this type of hitter for a long time in the Arizona Fall League. Put aside the fact that, I personally don't think he should be there. I think he should be in the major leagues. He is going to be the best hitter there day one. He's probably going to push for winning a Fall League batting title if he's there long enough, if the Jays allow him to stay long enough to qualify in those standards. I mean, he's going to be the favorite to lead the league in pretty much every offensive category. So that's really interesting. The Mets did the same thing with Peter Alonso. While we're all clamoring for him to be in the majors, they sent him there primarily to work on defense. I've seen his defense. I know it needs work. Again, I would rather him get that work here in September than in October and November in the fall league, but that's fine. He'll probably enter the league as the favorite to win in home runs if he's there long enough. So those two guys I'll definitely be keeping my eye on. If there's a roster that I really like, it's Scottsdale, which is going to have Alonso along with fellow Mets prospect Andres Jimenez, Taylor Trammell, who was the MVP of this year's Futures game, has some really good speed, can make a lot of really good defensive plays, but also, as he showed in the Futures game, his pop is kind of increasing. He missed a little bit of time this year, but I think this could be a little more of a sustained coming out party than just the one exhibition game was in Washington in July. Also, Sixto Sanchez on that roster. He's dealt with some injuries this year, but his stuff, when healthy, is some of the more elite just arsenal that you're going to see. Between he shows really, really good velocity, also shows some really good breaking pitches, and his control is some of the best that I've seen in the lower minors. I'm going to be really interested to see how he develops against more advanced hitters in the fall league. I hope he gets plenty of time. He only threw 46 2/3 innings this year at Class A Advanced Clearwater, so I would imagine he's going to have lots of opportunities to make up for that. So that should be a really fun team to watch there in Scottsdale. But you look up and down these rosters. Glendale will have Luis Robert, Keibert Ruiz, Esteban Florial. Salt River has Carter Kieboom, John Duplantier, Monte Harrison. Peoria has Keston Hiura and Christian Pache. I think Pache will be really, really fun to watch. I hope the more people watch him, they see how elite his defensive tool is. And so I think that'll be really cool. And Mesa has Michael Chavis. I should also add to that Salt River roster because he was a little bit of a late add, but Brendan Rodgers, who I think some people may have wanted to see join the Rockies in September, isn't going to quite get there. Didn't push there in the same way others did at AAA, but he will get his chance at the fall league. So that Salt River infield with Kieboom and Rodgers will be really neat. I'll be interested to see how they kind of work out, whether both play at shortstop, whether one of them moves over to second base. I mean, they both have that on their ledger. So, check out the site for those stories. Also, we talked about Vlad Jr. He'll be reunited with Bo Bichette, which will be really cool. Also, Cavan Biggio, coming off a real strong 2020 season at AA New Hampshire, will be there. That trio, it's one of those situations where I get excited to see them play together, except they did that already this year at New Hampshire, and it was really fun to watch them. So to see them grow again together will be really neat down there in Arizona. So we'll talk about this more the closer the fall league gets, but the fact that we have real rosters now and we'll get to see who's going down there is a little bit of a preview of the excitement to come.
So that is Three Strikes for episode number 176 of the Show Before the Show podcast. Coming up, we're going to go to the phone line to talk to Benjamin Hill, who is taking a well-needed half day off today and getting some rest after traveling for his final 2 stops on the minor league baseball ballpark tour that has been Benjamin Hill's opus over the last several years. Benjamin Hill joins the show next. It's a historic interview segment this week with Benjamin Hill, who is our one and only guest because Ben has completed a quest that maybe nobody else on the planet has completed, certainly not in the way that Ben has done it. 159 ballparks completed for Benjamin Hill, who has now seen every single park in minor league baseball, and then some, because there are parks that Ben has seen that are no longer part of the minor leagues. And we welcome Ben in to talk about his final 2, which came in the Centennial State last week, earlier this week, I guess. Ben, welcome. Congratulations. 159, all wrapped up.
Yeah, I did it. Been everywhere. It's been a journey, not a Bernie. I don't know anyone named Bernie.
Well, it could be a Bernie too. Well, let's talk about first. We'll cover your last two, Colorado Springs and Grand Junction, were your last two. And we didn't get to run into each other in the state where I live because I was traveling back, and you had gotten in and went down to the Springs and got to check out the last homestand for the AAA Colorado Springs Sky Sox. There will be a rookie level team in the Pioneer League in Colorado Springs next year, but you see the last AAA games in Colorado Springs as the Sky Sox wrap things up at Security Service Field, and then over to what will be a future league mate of Colorado Springs in Grand Junction, the Grand Junction Rockies. By next year, you'll have to come back because there will be a team in Pueblo, so you'll have to add a new stadium to the list. But before we get to that, let's start talking about Colorado Springs. A ballpark that, as far as AAA goes, especially in the Pacific Coast League, doesn't have some of the bells and whistles, but it's hosted minor league baseball for a long time, and you got a chance to check out one of the most beautiful settings of minor league baseball in Colorado Springs. But tell us about what it was like getting a chance to check out kind of a weird series, I would imagine, with the Sky Sox, where you're sort of saying goodbye, but they were also playing for a playoff berth. It was an interesting weekend.
It really was an interesting weekend. And putting aside, me completing my own kind of personal milestone journey, then to be in Colorado Springs with everything you just said, with them ending AAA after about 3 decades of being a AAA club. And especially talking to people with the club, it seemed like kind of the writing has been on the wall for a little while after they lost their Colorado Rockies affiliation, because once the Rockies, Colorado's team didn't want to be in Colorado Springs, it kind of showed how much that was not an optimal AAA location for travel reasons, for altitude reasons. The ballpark itself was a little older. So I think this move makes sense overall. And in fact, Branch Rickey III, president of the PCL, was in attendance, and he told me about as much, and try to explain why this era was ending, from a league-wide perspective. And then it wasn't just about saying goodbye. I get there, I got into Colorado Springs on Saturday night, and I'm there for the games on Sunday and Monday. At that point, and the Oklahoma City Redhawks were playing the Colorado Springs Sky Sox in these games. At that point, the Sky Sox, their magic number was 1. And they were playing a completion of a suspended game on Sunday, which was tied 4-4 after 6 innings, and only a 7-inning game because it was a previously scheduled doubleheader. That was followed by a regular game, just a 9-inning game. Then Monday was going to be either a normal game or a doubleheader if needed, if the Sky Sox hadn't clinched. So that's so minor league baseball, all these scenarios there going on all at once. But long story short, the Sky Sox lost the completion of the suspended game on Sunday, lost the regular scheduled game, and got swept to the doubleheader on Monday, and therefore lost the division and had their entire AAA history end with losing 4 games in hardly a 24-hour span. And there you go. So long, Colorado Springs Sky Sox. It was certainly not the ending that people wanted. And then when the game ended, the team, to kind of commemorate the transition to going to the Pioneer League next year and their current Name the Team contest, they still had a party, and it was pretty creative. Maybe not in the best atmosphere for a party after losing 4 games like that, but it's minor league baseball. People get over defeat a lot quicker in minor league baseball than they do in the majors. So they had this party with where they're serving Rocky Mountain oysters for free, because that's one of the team names. They were potential team names for next year. They were showing Top Gun on the video board because one of the potential team names is the Throttle Jockeys. They set up camping chairs and a fire pit on the base paths because one of the team names is Happy Campers. They had a petting zoo because one of the team names is Lamb Chops, which is kind of weird. You don't want to look at these animals and think about them being food, but that's cool. It was really a creative thing all over the place. And then there's one other team name, the Punchy Tyler. You can tell us about these, the Colorado thing, the Punchy Pikas. I mean, what's going on with that?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the whole connection is there. The Pikas are, we've been over the last several not even years, I guess now the last decade, we've been treated to these kind of crazy names in minor league baseball as contenders. Punchy pikas was a thing that I had to look up, but I guess it's an animal that lives on Pikes Peak, which is right outside of Colorado Springs, and was the place where America the Beautiful was written, and is kind of one of the landmarks. But I don't even really know what exactly a pika is. I think it's like a rodent, but it barks, I guess. So it's some of those things that I think I've seen a million times going camping and stuff, and I had no idea what the name was. But I wouldn't think that there would be an easy way to incorporate that really like into the. You couldn't really have a petting zoo of pikas.
No, I think they have an organization that has a pika connection somehow, some sort of pika awareness organization who I unfortunately didn't come across, but. Big picture, that's the great thing about minor league baseball is how much you learn. I didn't know what a nutria was until the New Orleans Zephyrs and now Baby Cakes, had a nutria for a mascot, and that's a large rodent. So we're learning all together here through minor league baseball about a lesser-known species of rodents. But anyway, it was a really interesting time in Colorado Springs. Obviously, based on everything I was just saying, a lot going on, a lot to digest, a lot to process. I still have a story to write, which I'll do so in the near future, just kind of trying to summarize all that at the end of the AAA era in Colorado Springs. And I really do think, the fan base, I think right now is skeptical, and there's that kind of sting of going from AAA to rookie ball and all that. But, I think also in talking to the staff, you get a sense of optimism that now they can fully embrace the more goofy, irreverent branding that is so prevalent in minor league baseball, and just as crucially, or even more crucially, not have to operate in Colorado in April or May when it can still be really cold and hard to get people in the ballpark. Now they can just be open from mid-June to Labor Day, more or less, and those times you make your money anyway. So I think there's a lot of optimism there, and there is precedent when you look at Spokane, Vancouver, markets like that who went from being underperforming AAA franchises in the past to now top-level short-season franchises. So I think Colorado Springs are going to, do their best to follow that template.
Yeah, and you mentioned the fans a little bit. What was your sense of, just what the community has a feel about moving from a AAA team to a rookie-level team? That's, in one sense, that's a view of your market, right? You're no longer a viable AAA market, and you get dropped all the way down 4 or 5 levels. But also Security Service Field is, according to what I just looked up, the capacity is 8,500. That's much bigger than, another rookie level team in, say, the Happy League or elsewhere in the Pioneer League. So what were the fans kind of reacting to in terms of that being the last, weekend series or last 4-game stretch in AAA history around there?
Well, kind of like I said before, it was kind of funny to see this epic collapse and definitely see some fans that were disappointed, but not really feel like it seemed like most people weren't that invested in terms of, oh my goodness, we just blew it. So I do think there's that typical, and this is not just specific to Colorado Springs, but minor league baseball, that typical feeling that you're there to have fun more than to live and die with every out and every game result. So I think everyone's going to be okay, big picture. I know there's some of the more hardcore fans are disappointed about seeing a level of play just in terms of product on the field that won't be as good. But what I really picked up on, and this is not putting anyone down, is just a kind of people not understanding what rookie ball is going to be, nor what minor league baseball branding is right now. So I think, as you always see with name the team contests, and just whether it's a new market or a market where the day-to-day situation on the ground is changing, you just see the fans not quite understanding. So I think right now there's like, I'm going to wait to renew my season tickets and see what this is, or I'm not going to go to a game with this embarrassing name. But I think at the end of the day, everything's going to be fine, and that once people go to a game, say, hey, this is still the same experience that I enjoyed in the past, but now it's a little more vibrant and fun and certainly warmer. And certainly the front office staff, I think, is really raring to go to transition to this whole new reality, and take advantage of being a bigger market for a rookie level team and having a bigger ballpark. And that just means you can fit more people in the ballpark. And I think for the most part, that's a good thing for them, and they're positioned to do really well at a rookie level basis.
I'll be very fascinated to see how the name change goes over, because Colorado Springs is a really interesting market. It is an extremely conservative market, and if they go with something crazy, I'll be really interested to see what the response is, because I think it's going to be more than just the standard, "This is ridiculous, I'm not coming." So we'll see how that goes over the next few months when they announce what the eventual name will be. Before we move on to Grand Junction, I got to ask about, you stopped at the B&B Cafe in Castle Rock and had breakfast, and I'm very jealous. Did you have a sit? Well, I guess the big question about the B&B Cafe, did you see the bullet holes in the ceiling? That's the thing that everybody talks about there.
Wow, I did not. And to be honest, I didn't go to the B&B Cafe based on any prior knowledge.
Oh, okay.
It just worked out. I was, first of all, big picture, and Tyler, I imagine you know this, is, the drive from Colorado Springs to Grand Junction is incredible. It's one of the best in all my travels. And so I get to Castle Rock, and it's pretty early in the drive, and, I'm hungry. I need to eat. I'd actually gotten up, especially by my standards, on the road really early at about 6 a.m. and went to Garden of the Gods, and, right in Colorado Springs, or right outside of it, just beautiful natural landmark and a lot to take in. And then I'm driving, and I don't know what to do. And when I'm on the road, I'm always thinking, like, I just got to keep moving, not too much time to think. So I saw a Waffle House on an exit sign, and I was like, oh, that'll work. But then I get off the exit, and I don't see a sign in terms of which direction the Waffle House is. And then the Castle Rock downtown was just to my left. So I'm like, all right, I'll just drive through this downtown. Then I saw B&B Cafe, and I was like, cool, this looks like a real spot with some charm. And I sat at the counter, and they had a great big sprawling menu. I got steak and eggs, and it was just a great place to stop, which brings me to the fact that I didn't know anything about the place. And no, I did not know that there were bullet holes in the ceiling.
Yeah.
So I think I'd like to hear about this.
If you find yourself in Colorado Springs, or in Colorado Springs, that works because it's not that far of a drive. But if you find yourself in Castle Rock, do what Ben did and just swing by the B&B Cafe. They have amazing breakfast. They have terrific cinnamon rolls. But apparently back in like the 30s or 40s, it's right across the street from the courthouse for Douglas County. And there was an escaped criminal of some kind was being transported to the county jail, and he escaped, and then he got caught in a shootout with police in the B&B Cafe in like 1936 or something like that. And there are still bullet holes in the tin roof at the B&B Cafe. There's a tin ceiling inside the diner, and that's like one of the things that's like on the menu, like the history of the restaurant. But I remember when I was a kid, we used to go there for breakfast every once in a while with my dad, and I was just endlessly fascinated by that. So if you ever find yourself there, go crush some steak and eggs, because I'm assuming it was delicious. Now you know a little nerdy history thing as well. And that drive, like Ben said, is incredible. And Ben got a chance to go on I-70 all the way west, past through Glenwood Springs, and then you cross onto the western slope, and Grand Junction and Simplesio Field, the home of the Grand Junction Rockies. It's a really unique and interesting minor league environment because there is a stunning amount of baseball history in Grand Junction. They host the Junior College World Series. The NJCAA hosts the World Series at the home of the Grand Junction Rockies every year at Simplesio Field. But there's a lot of baseball background in Grand Junction, which seems like probably kind of a cool place to end your ballpark journey, with 159 ballparks, ending at a place that has a lot of minor league baseball history, but has just a lot of baseball history outside of that too.
Yeah, it wasn't the plan to end there or to end with my final trip in Colorado. It's just the way things worked out logistically after years and years of doing this. And so I was really excited to see Grand Junction for myself, and it is interesting. Simplesio Field, was a pre-existing large facility that a minor league team could just slot right into, which you obviously don't see very often. There's not too many ballparks around the country that just are waiting for a minor league team to potentially move in and function successfully. So it's definitely a unique environment there. And like you said, they host like 4 different high schools. And Tyler, like you said, most notably the JUCO World Series. And then there's a football field right adjacent to it. So the press box, this massive press box. There's actually 4. First of all, there's 4 levels in this ballpark if you get in the elevator. Which you do not see at many ballparks, even AAA, it's rare, let alone rookie ball. So this massive press box structure on the first base side actually functions for both the baseball field and the football field. There's
brilliant.
a long hallway all the way down. Yeah, so this long hallway goes all the way down. All the rooms on the right look out onto the baseball field, and all the rooms on the left look out onto the football field. And that's why you have the unorthodox location of down the line as opposed to just behind home plate. There is a press box behind home plate. It is no longer in use, just a very small, traditional little press box at the top behind home plate, which is now basically a storage area. But you have a really unique press box situation, which also has a huge, party hospitality room. And so a lot of room to move at that ballpark, despite it being a rookie-level facility.
Yeah, it's a really cool setup. Stoker Stadium, the football stadium on the one side, and then Simplizio Field on the other side. And that giant press box gives kind of a weird vantage point for like a broadcast, but it's cool because of the way the stands are set up underneath it. And there's a very dedicated, loyal fan base in Grand Junction. Most of the season ticket holders are right underneath it in the actual like permanent seats, not in the benches, the bleachers that are around the rest of the ballpark. But one thing that surprised me when I went to Grand Junction for the first time a few years ago, there's some really, really good food selections in Grand Junction. I know, I think you got a chance to try out the Huckleberry ice cream. You also, and I'm very jealous of this, you ended up in Palisade, Colorado, right in the heart of Palisade peach season, which is like a legendary part of time. It's like that Seinfeld episode with the Mackinac peaches. The Palisade peaches are that in Colorado, where when the Palisade peaches come in, people freak out and they buy them in bulk and freeze them for the rest of the year. But what all did you get to try, and what did your designated eater get to try in Grand Junction?
Yeah, well, there were no peaches. Well, actually, correction. There actually were peaches at the ballpark because the team is so close to Palisade, which is known for the peaches. And when I stopped in Palisade, I don't eat really many peaches in my day-to-day life, but I had to do it because it was, when in Rome sort of thing. I went to a place, McLean Farms, with the two nicest women in the world. Well, that's hyperbole, but they're very nice women working there, and it was just such a friendly atmosphere. And they had this really, really old cash register when I bought a couple peaches and a few other things. And I was like, how old is that cash register? And the woman was like, it turns 100 on next July 9th. So, such a cool...
the cash register has its own birthday.
Yeah, I was like, wow, what are you going to do to celebrate this cash register's 100th birthday? That's a milestone. But anyway, that was a cool stop. The Grand Junction Rockies, every Tuesday, and I happen to be there on a Tuesday, the last home game of the season, have a local orchard come out and sell at the game. So there was a woman selling peaches at the game, by the box, which is not something you can get at a MiLB ballpark very often. But in terms of the food, yeah, I had my designated eater, Leanna Louie. Shout out to her because she made a hat that said Ben Everywhere on it and gave it to me as a present at the game. There's a lot of different food for, again, a small ballpark. Also, what was it called? A Rockies Ricky, a gin drink, which is Welch's grape juice and no, it was Crush. It was Crush grape juice or grape soda with gin. So if you want like a purple drink at the ballpark, you can get it there. Then the Wiley. Yeah, exactly. Then the Wiley Burger she got to try out, which is, no one really seems to know why I would call the Wiley Burger, but it has to be a Wiley Coyote reference because their mascot is a coyote. But this burger has a split Polish sausage and pulled pork and barbecue sauce, supremely messy. The Rock nachos, Rock for Rockies, had all sorts of toppings because you get them at a stand that's Mexican themed that has all like the standard taco and burrito toppings, so you can really customize that. And the ice cream, yes, you can get Huckleberry. It works well with the Rockies' purple colors, and certainly nothing I'd seen at a ballpark before. And you get this at a stand where the sign just says $1 ice cream, and they literally have $1 ice cream every day of the year. So naturally, it's one of their best sellers when you get it for a year. And they were out of helmets, but they said that if they hadn't been out of helmets, then even in a helmet, it's $1. So, respect to that great ice cream deal. And, you can get some unique things. You can get some gin and grape soda to start things off and end your night with some Huckleberry ice cream.
By the way, just before I let Sam jump in, since I've just completely hijacked this interview, but the by far easiest food identity in minor league baseball that has somehow not been done yet is the peaches for the Grand Junction Rockies. You could call yourselves the Grand Valley Peaches. That one's free. It's fantastic, and it'd be easy, and you would sell so much merchandise. And there you go. I'll let you have that one, Montford family. Sam, take it away.
Well, wouldn't that also work well with the Rockford Peaches?
Right, exactly. That's the thing. Like, the Peaches thing has already been done. So you could just, you're paying homage to baseball history, and you're capitalizing on your most famous local food. It's a twofer. It's a 2-for-1.
Something
a double
to consider,
play, if you will.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a very Ben and Tyler segment. Like, don't worry about me, like, sitting in the background for this. Mine would be like, so about those mountains, huh? What about those mountains? That's what that whole state is, right?
Sam and I checked out the mountains recently. Sam got to check out the mountains. The whole podcast has gotten to check out the mountains this year. That's pretty cool.
Right. So you guys can talk about much more specific things than I could touch on in Grand Junction. But, Ben, let's pivot now to the fact that Grand Junction was 159. What was that feeling like that night going into it, knowing that, this was the last one on the checklist for now? We know there will be a bunch of new parks added to it next year. But having completed the set, what was it just like walking around a park? I imagine this was a little different feeling from your normal ballpark experience in that way.
Yeah, I went in the season with the whole Ben Everywhere theme. And this job, I started part-time in 2005. Never had a template, and a lot of sort of making it up as I go along, and all the sort of, a lot of benefit to that, but all the stress and anxiety that comes with this. And, I never had a master plan, and it kind of shocks me. I've been doing it this long, and this is, what I really devoted my career to. And because it's not a job that really had existed, I haven't had any really built-in milestones. So this one meant a lot to me because it gave me a chance for kind of the first time to not just say I'm doing this, but to say, like, here's what I've done. I did it. Every single active affiliated minor league team. You look on the MiLB.com tickets map. You see every little team there, every little pin on the map. I can say I've been there, which is it does mean a lot to me. So during the game itself, for a lot of the time, I knew I'd think about it later, but I was just in it, and I was just doing what I always do, and it went really fast between meeting with the designated eater and getting a tour of the ballpark and doing some interviews and X, Y, and Z. And the fact that the ballpark, doesn't have an open concourse, I was barely watching the game. And it wasn't until literally the ninth inning that I just went out there and sat down and watched the final, 2 outs of the game. And then it was like, oh my goodness, this game's over. My travels for 2018 are over. I've finally been to every place. And it all hit pretty hard, as I kind of knew it would be. And, I was feeling kind of emotional. And, I put up a message. I put it on Twitter later. Instead of doing the typical ballpark joke, I just tried to explain kind of how I felt upon reaching the milestone. I think if you watch that video, you can see that I was pretty emotional, and went back to the hotel and did a little bit of work, but I just couldn't focus at all. And I was just sitting in the hotel room like, man, wow, like, you did it, man. And, it's so fitting for a job like this to be alone in a hotel on a Tuesday night in Grand Junction. It's not a job that really has created many social moments for me away from the ballpark. So it all kind of felt appropriate. I didn't do as much work as I usually did. I had actually bought a few little bottles of alcohol, just like the airplane-sized bottles. And, just had a couple drinks and watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine because it was what was on the TV. Then later on, obsessed with the new Eminem album, sort of as I do on my free time, and just tried to let my mind go and say, hey, we did it. And then wake up real early the next day and fly home, and here I am now. So
yeah,
there's a lot more to write.
That sounds exactly appropriate. Like, if we could be scripting how that scene would go, the fact that the Eminem album was in there, the fact that it was, hotel room by yourself and not like a big city in Grand Junction, Colorado, just seems so perfect. But obviously, upon this journey, upon completing it, we've talked about this either on the podcast, off the podcast, whatever. A lot of people have questions for you. What was your favorite thing? What was your, least favorite park? Whatever. I don't want to touch on that too much. I want to kind of stay away from that. But for anybody trying to start their own journey for this, certain people just want to hit all the parks in the Midwest League, or want to hit every park in the state of Florida, something like that. What kind of advice would you have for somebody who is looking to get, their own been everywhere, for lack of a better hashtag, for getting that journey started on their own?
Well, I think for one, it's not a competition. I think when you do anything, and I hit this milestone and people are like, oh, life goals. And some people kind of like, oh, I wish I had the resources to do that. And, I kind of like, look, this is my job and I did it over a long time. And I think it's important to get out of your own head with like, well, I've only been to 4 places. Why bother? This is an incremental thing, and above and beyond, it's just about you, whoever you may be, and the way you want to do it. So I would say don't get caught up with how overwhelming the entire landscape is. Don't get caught up with the way I or anyone else has done it. And just think to yourself, if I have the resources to travel at all, where would I like to go and why? And you could do that, within the affiliates of your favorite team or a particular region of the country, or just pick something random and then devise an itinerary from there. But I think the main thing is just to look at your own interests beyond baseball and your own resources and just have as much fun as you can, because that's what this is about at the end of the day. I mean, yes, it's my job and it's our job, you guys, to work in baseball and to cover baseball. But from the fan perspective, it's just about having fun, and that's it. So put everything else aside, think what's going to give you the most joy and pleasure. Do it incrementally. Don't think about what anyone else is doing, and just have fun within the context that you can have fun. And I think that's really what it is.
Like Sam said, I think it's probably impossible to ask you anything like, what's your favorite? What's the one that has stood out most to you? But I'm sure there are some aspects of certain ballparks that stand out, little features, things that you liked about a concourse, or the way a Hall of Fame was presented in a certain park, or what you like for an outfield view or something. Are there some things that really stick out in your mind as, yeah, this is my favorite little thing from these stadiums across the country?
I mean, so many. Actually, one of the things I did last month was, I went through all my pictures and videos from all the trips and kind of did make some categorical, not quite rankings, but picked favorites in different categories. I decided to hold off on that until I completed everything and things slowed down a little. So, yeah, I will have some categorical listings with things. But that's the number one question I get, when people find out what I do for a living. Like, oh, what's your favorite ballpark? So I've become very well versed with that answer, and trying my best to talk about my favorite within various categories. But as you guys know, it's 159 ballparks, 160 teams. I've been to 172 ballparks, including defunct ones. It can be tough to just on the fly just break through all that clutter in my mind and have ones rise to the top. So off the top of my head, it really depends. I get different answers on different days. So there's been all sorts of things that have stood out. With newer ballparks, I think of the Charlotte skyline, at their facility, and just how gorgeous that is for an urban setting, or how I was in El Paso. I was just so taken with it being a literal border town and seeing Juarez right across behind the ballpark, not far away, but literally right there. And then I love too, or almost more, your rookie level or short season teams that really don't have much bells and whistles, to have really down home, intimate environments that just seem like such throwbacks, and especially in the Appy League, going to a place like Bluefield or Bristol or something like that. So, I can go down so many tangents, and I'll try to keep this particular answer not much more longer than that. But, throughout the offseason, there'll be a lot of time to reflect and put out some, again, not quite rankings, but share some of my favorite things. And also, I always enjoy hearing from people. I want what I've done not just to be about me, but to be about everyone who enjoys this sort of thing, to share their own experiences and to learn from what I've done to maybe enhance the experiences they're going to have.
All right, so I'll put it this way then. Not necessarily your favorite, but if you could, now that the slate is clean again, because when you started this journey a couple of years ago, it was probably all about just what made sense logistically and all that kind of stuff. But now, let's say you're back at zero, you have all the knowledge that you do have going into 2019, or just anybody who hasn't been to a minor league park yet, and theoretically we're trying to get to 159, where would you start and where would you end if you were having to start park 150 or park 1 to 159? What would be the first stadium you want to see and the last stadium you want to see?
Wow, that's a tough question. I would probably start, more broadly speaking, in the Carolinas, North and South Carolina. I mean, North Carolina in particular, I believe, has more ballparks than any other state and a lot of diversity in those ballparks. So I think right off the bat, to start, maybe start with Durham, because you don't really have a more iconic franchise than the Durham Bulls. You can visit their old home, Durham Bulls Athletic Park, and see where the movie was, what inspired the movie and everything, but also see their new park. Is a great example of what a current, high-level AAA facility is. And then literally the next day you could go to Burlington and see a Appalachian League ballpark, and then just within less than 24 hours you could run the gamut between between AAA and rookie. So I think that might be a good starting point, and then it's just a great starting point for a trip where you can pack a lot in a short amount of time. And then to end, what I'd probably do is, Pacific Northwest is obviously one of the most beautiful parts of the country. I love it every time I'm out there. I think to end, maybe I'd end in Vancouver to finally, because of the 160 teams, 159 ballparks, there's only one in Canada. So I think it might be good to, save the border crossing to the very end, go international with it and see the Canadians. And that is a beautiful city, Vancouver, and a great ballpark, Nat Bailey. Great old stadium with really committed fans and a great energy and atmosphere, and I think that'd be a great way to close it out.
He is Benjamin Hill. You can find him on Twitter. He is at Ben's Biz. The blog is bensbiz.mlblogs.com. You can check out, and dating back for years now, you can look back on all the ballparks that Ben has visited, and a lot of content still coming up to the site. Ben, congratulations, man. One hell of a body of work, and just start it all over again now. Now you can do 159. You can do them in reverse order or something.
I think I'm going to do it alphabetical next.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah.
So
Aberdeen, you're up.
Yeah, you have to wait till short season starts, but otherwise.
Yeah, I'm always finding flaws in my otherwise impeccable logic. I get it. But, yeah, what's next? Who knows? But right now, soaking this one for a while. And as you mentioned, there's a lot more to come, just both with things, especially on the blog. Got a lot more in-season material to come. And if you go to my blog, there's a ballpark visits tab right on the homepage, and every on-the-road post is there. You can also search for any team and see everything I've done there. So if you want to get any information related to anything in the minor league landscape, I think it's a good place to do it. You
can see weird pictures of me and Ben from 7 years ago if you're so inclined. You can find it all at the blog. It's bensbiz.mlblogs.com. Congratulations, Ben. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Big thanks to Benjamin Hill again. He's on Twitter at BensBiz, and the blog is bensbiz.mlblogs.com. And this weekend, the playoffs continue in earnest throughout the minor leagues. It's tough for us to pick MiLB.TV games for the weekend because some of these series might already be wrapped up by the weekend. But there are a lot of prospects who are trying to play for some hardware and some big things here over the next few weeks, Sam. This is it's a fun time of year.
Yeah, for sure. If I was to tell you guys to watch one game that we definitely know is happening, hopefully you guys can listen to this beforehand. But on Friday, in Game 3 of the Texas League semis, Forrest Whitley is actually coming back. Didn't talk about him too much in the AFL segment. He has been dealing with a lat issue that put him on the DL. The Astros have taken him off. He's back with Corpus Christi now. So this will be kind of a fall league preview if you don't care so much about the Texas League playoffs. But any chance you get to watch one of the game's top right-hander pitching prospects, you should absolutely do so. He's scheduled to pitch Friday in Game 3 of that Texas League semis. It's a best of 5, so Game 3 will happen no matter what. You're going to want to watch him regardless, but also that San Antonio lineup is pretty loaded in itself. Buddy Reed will be there, another Futures game player. Josh Naylor, Hudson Potts are all on that San Antonio roster. And as we've said all season long, Padres system is pretty loaded top to bottom, so you're always going to find somebody interesting to watch on any of their affiliates. But seeing them go up against Forrest Whitley in a big playoff game should be really exciting. So, consult the site. We'll have updates, obviously, on every playoff series, ones that are on MiLB TV, ones that aren't, see where things kind of stand. You'll definitely want to watch the finals as those start to pick up, especially at the higher levels. But if I had to pick one game to watch this weekend, it would be Whitley versus San Antonio on Friday.
And that will do it for episode number 176 of the Show Before the Show podcast. You can find Sam on Twitter. He's at Sam Dykster, MiLB. Benjamin Hills at Ben's Biz. I'm at Tyler Maughan. You can get in touch with us, podcast at MiLB.com. And playoffs continue this weekend. We'll be back to break it all down next week, and we'll talk to you then.
You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better, because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.